My name is Khalid Mahmood, and today our guest is Thomas Pochari. Tom is a regular on Restoring the Mind. He writes for World Affairs Monthly. Welcome to Restoring the Mind, Tom.
Hey, yeah. Hi, Khaled. Good to talk to you.
Okay, Tom, let's have a question for you. There were reports in the media that Iran, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia may want to apply for BRICS Club. What do you think? Will Saudi Arabia join the BRICS Club?
Yes, I think they will. I think if I can be really blunt, I'm going to say that events are always almost impossible to predict. Because the human variable is almost infinite. It's really complex. Obviously, geopolitics is kind of a joke. It's a discipline. But look, if you're really smart, observant, and you're dedicated, and you go for the long haul, like I'm 64 years old at the end of the month, you're going to find that you can predict events. And I think that the inevitability that Russia joins up with China and joins up with the Arabian Gulf is like almost 100% certain. 100%.
So, what will happen to the dollar then?
Well, the dollar is really interesting. The dollar, because we talked about this a couple of times. I think I may have argued to you that when the United States it's been this way in the past. When the United States is borrowing, getting more debt at a higher rate, at a large pace, like outpace, then the world economy does very well. Everybody goes on a spending binge, buying binge, spending binge, and also debt binge. And the emerging market currencies, they call them emerging market, they do pretty well. They start to appreciate against the hard currencies, which is unusual. Usually they depreciate. The world economy will expand, everybody's income rises, and the dollar will decline in these kind of periods, right? And it's basically because in my opinion, the dollar is a function of the debt business. So the debt business outpaces everybody. Wow, that's really good in the United States. Everybody's making money. Debt's growing at a rapid rate, far faster than normal. And like I said, the dollar will decline. But now we have the reverse, because it's only possible to borrow so much in the United States, and we're getting to the point where the debt burden is getting really pretty serious. And so I think the growth in the debt is slowing down, and therefore, guess what? The dollar is strengthening. Yeah, and I think that strength will persist for a while until the American public and maybe the European public, the OECD, the G7, or the richer countries in the world, until the public realizes that the debt of the United States is not going to work out too well. There's going to be a default, and I can't predict when that's going to happen, obviously, but when that realization, I've said this before to you, Khaled, when that realization comes in the marketplace, in the public's mind, then there will be a sell-off in the dollar. But I think we're still quite a ways from that.
Would you say about between 2 to 3 years or between 5 and 7 years?
It's hard to say, I mean, I think it's hard to say, but if I had to take a bet, I would say it's probably sooner than later, within a couple of years. But that assumes that there's a lot of people out there in the world. That, for example, the Arab people, there's about almost 500 million of them. Do they want to improve their situation? Do they want to keep living with rags and basically, if people begin to realize around the world that the less capable people, the poor and the oppressed, so-called oppressed, the people that you kind of pay attention to, God, if they start to realize that, hey, it's really sucks to live like this, then I think it could happen sooner than later. But most of the world is still kind of stuck with American, with the Jewish power. They assume, oh, Jewish power. And the Jews, by the way, I saw on Telegram, the station Save the West. There's an excellent, I think, 9-part or 11-part series on the Jews and how they ruled the world and killed many people in the Soviet Union, et cetera. So I urge everybody to look at that. But the answer to your question is, I really can't say, but I think I would bet that it's going to go sooner than later.
At the moment, right, there is a lot of protest going on in Dutch areas,
Yeah.
especially Netherlands. And maybe that is kind of in the old days, if you would see the spades and the forks coming out, etc., the farmers, and the protesting against the elites, and etc. And this is possibly the same thing happening. The spades and the forks are out.
Yeah.
Will the rest of the Europe, do you think, follow? And if the Saudis are going to, like you said,
Yeah.
like you agreed that they will leave the American camp and probably join the BRICS camp, okay?
Right.
So then the rest of the Europe, would
Yeah,
they
we'll
follow
go
the
with the
suit?
BRICS. Yeah. Yeah. Because one of our discussions, I can't remember which one, but we were talking about geopolitics in Eurasia, and you were the one who mentioned Halford Mackinder, this British chap, around the turn of the century. And so I think it's inevitable that this realization comes to the public mind, global public mind, that there was, excuse me, there was this period of, from say from 1880 to maybe 1970, when the Seven Sisters kind of got booted out of Arabia. There was a very strong Jewish domination of the world, and naturally, at some point, this Jewish domination is going to fall away, and you're going to get people all over the world realizing that, hey, there's another world out there. There's another side. We're going to, excuse me, we're going to go to the better world, and I think there will be a realization, but it's always hard to predict. But I think we'll have a far right government in Italy pretty soon. I don't know exactly when, but it's coming, and I think the far right government will come in France too. I don't know about Germany. Maybe Germany will come later, but definitely France and Italy. And I think the immigrants from North Africa, from Arab, they're going to be kicked out. And I know maybe you're going to be shocked to hear this, but the war is going to come. The big war is going to come. It's hard to believe that this can change like this. This world can go from Jewish domination to something new is going to happen without a war. I tend to think will likely be a war because everybody's going to be really, really stressed out. You know, very stressed out.
So you're predicting a war in Europe, the west of Europe, east of Europe?
I think it could be, it will be like a global conflict that just kind of simmers and everybody will be slugging it out. And of course, the ones with the big weapons will annihilate the ones without weapons. I'm just, it's just my hunch. I can't say for sure, but I'm hoping that maybe that doesn't happen because I think it would be pretty miserable for everybody. But it's so much tension building up. The Chinese want Taiwan back. Okay, they own Taiwan. It's part of China. They are Han Chinese people. So why should the American Jews be telling the Chinese government that they can't have Taiwan? It's totally ridiculous. And Putin, the Russians want Ukraine back, and they're going to get it. So Can the Jews tolerate this situation? I don't think they can. They're
So,
megalomaniacs.
so if the Chinese get the Taiwan back and the Russians got Ukraine back, so that
Yeah,
means the Muslims should get their whole region back as
exactly,
well,
exactly.
and
So
got rid of this Sykes and Picot.
Yeah, exactly. The borders in the Arab world will be removed, and you can have a big monetary union. You can have a Sunni Arab world that actually starts to look pretty respectable. I think it's possible. In fact, I predicted that. I was in touch with Saddam Hussein, and I think he wanted to do that, but he didn't have that many tools. I think he was a great guy. Saddam Hussein was fine. He had his problem with the Shia. Iraq was his British invention, and most of the people in Iraq are Shia, so he couldn't really do the job. But yeah, if I remember correctly, the Ba'ath Party actually proposed to integrate Syria and Iraq. I think you know that. I'm pretty sure that's correct. I have to go back and look at my history, but you remember that?
Yeah, I remember him trying to erase the border between Iraq and Kuwait,
Yeah.
and that didn't go very well for him. But the
No.
idea, and I like the idea though.
Oh yeah, well, a lot of ideas come way before their time. For example, I think that schooling, for example, for youngsters is going to be eliminated, and it's good, largely because of me, but also because we're failing. We have to guide ourselves with knowledge and information, not with superstition and beliefs and silly ideas. We have to go by the facts. And so
Okay.
we will live in a fact-based world, a knowledge-based world, but it could be kind of difficult to get there. I mean, obviously, the history of the human, we're at 9 minutes, but the history of the human animal is pretty tumultuous, pretty violent, pretty disgusting. Horrors, a nonstop horror show. But we could be moving out of that. In fact, I think we are.
I think in our last interview, we agreed that there
Yeah.
is going to be on the other side of the war. There's going to be a huge development as well.
Yeah,
And
there's bad guys and good guys, and I'll just flat out say the bad guys are the Jews. These Jews are horrible. I couldn't do what they do. I mean, they're terrible people. So they're going to be removed, and then we're going to have, in an enlightened world.
you couldn't resist it, could you, Tom?
Well, I
Okay,
don't know. I mean,
we'll leave
Craner,
it at
you
that.
and
We
Craner
agreed
are
on
kind
10
of,
minutes. We agreed on 10 minutes, and
yeah.
we'll leave out with the
Okay, good.
interview here. Okay. Thank you
Okay.
very much. Bye.
Yeah, sure. It's good talking.